G'day guys, welcome back to Supercoach Swordplay and welcome to the round 19 review. Hope you had a ripper of a week. Very par for me at 24.44. Still in the top 2%. Season rank, you don't really call it a round number, but it looks sort of roundish. 3,750. It's just meh at the moment, isn't it? There's not a lot to talk about. Many of us have run out of trades, got a couple of trades left like I do. If you're lucky, you might have 4 or 5. If you've got more than that, you are absolutely laughing at the moment. You're going to come home with a very, very wet sail, but there's just not a lot to talk about at the moment when it comes to Supercoach. We'll continue to put the potty out. I'll continue to do my round reviews. This is going to be a pretty short one. It's, I don't know, very late at night / early in the morning. It'll be 4:49 a.m. at the moment. I won't go into the dramas of that. It's been a big one, but we're always committed to putting these videos out, so we'll do that for the rest of the season and then get into some game day squad finals football. So that's going to be super exciting. Make sure that you do jump on GDS if you haven't already for their finals competition. It's going to be absolutely elite, and that's when Supercoach finishes. So, what do I want to talk about? So, there's just a couple of things, and over the last, as I said, there's not a lot to talk about when it comes to Supercoach, and with my 2 trades, I just plan on holding them for injuries at this stage, and I'll talk about not backing my gut in a little bit, but upon reflection on the last probably week and a bit, I've asked myself this question, and I'm what you call a veteran supercoacher. That is no means an expert supercoacher. It's a veteran. So I've been playing for, I reckon, about 20 odd years now. And for those that have been playing for a long time, you remember that this game that we call Supercoach now is completely different to the game that we were playing when it first opened up. We had, I think it was 24 trades, could have been even less, not too sure, but 24 trades, no flex, none of this sort of stuff. No boosts, it was just 24 trades, and your trades were gold. If you stuffed up your starting team, you pretty much stuffed up your season. If you're a good coach, you can always trade well, but you really did need to nail that starting team. I think these days with your 40 trades or your boosts, if you stuff up even a large portion of your starting team with some quick trades and some quick fixes, and then a little bit of luck avoiding some injuries where you've burnt those early trades, then you can absolutely get right back into things. Old school, it was a lot more difficult to do that. So the old approach was to hold your trades for as long as you can. You need to squeeze every dollar out of these cash cows, out of their rookies before you cull them. But these days it's a different game. You know, it used to be that 150k rule. I'd even say close to the 175k rule early on, and prices were different and all the rest. As I said, a bit of a different game, but these days, even myself, you look at 100k and you think, bang, that's good enough. Let's bank that. Let's get really aggressive with this upgrade cadence. But you just couldn't do that back in the day. And that's where I'm struggling, I think, these days. And part of it's, I think, being a content creator, and I'll talk about that in a sec as well. But it's the fact that I still run with that traditional Supercoach brain. Be tight with the trades. Don't be ultra aggressive because you just burn yourself towards the end of the season. But at the same time, seeing legends like Joven last year, that new school type of Supercoacher, bit of mid-price madness, go super aggressive really early on, make some really bold moves. I'm caught in between the two, I think, this year. And it hasn't really served me well. And is it really an advantage being a veteran Supercoacher these days? Or is it more an advantage being pretty new to the game? You obviously need to know a fair bit about your football and the way things are scored and player traits and team structures, all the rest. There's a fair bit to the the research and the info that you've got to consume. But generally speaking, if you know enough about the game, then maybe it is better or more an advantage for those people over the last 4 or 5 years that have just started out, because they're used to that constant change and they haven't necessarily gone in with this traditional brain where you've just got to hold until the very last minute and then cash out, because you could never complete a team if you went too hard too early, and then if there was injury carnage, you were absolutely screwed. So I do love lots of the new ways of Supercoach. Don't get me wrong, this flex I think is wonderful, and some people disagree with that, but I think it's a really good addition to the game and makes things interesting with even strategy as well. Is it a ruck? Is it whoever? But I think that's one thing that I've really struggled with. And, I think the other thing is also being a content creator. Now, before I was producing content, I would 100% always follow my gut. You'd always listen to those veterans like your Jock Reynolds, here you go, the Crouching Mum, all the absolute OGs out there. Back to the Dr. Supercoach boys as well. I'm talking like real, maybe even before those blokes, just real old school type stuff. There'd be a couple of blokes I'd listen to, but I'd tend to do all my research myself. Never listen to any outside noise. The great people on supercoachtalk.com, Kata, Dan Mashman, all these great blokes. They're the sort of people that you'd bounce off, learn the game with and alongside. And I used to, as I said, just completely follow my gut. And if the move didn't work out, that's okay. I didn't necessarily feel the pressure. And these days I do because, and as I said, I've never claimed to be an expert, but we've obviously got the Q&A. I have a lot of comments and people send DMs and questions my way, which I can't get to half the DMs. And I do really apologise for that, guys. But I try my best always, but I do feel that pressure of giving advice as well. And with what I do with my own team, I feel that there may be some, and this isn't to give myself a big head or anything like that, don't want to come off like that, but I do feel like there are people that do, a small minority that tend to follow what I would do with my own team. And so I'm thinking, look, if I go with this bold move or bold strategy and it doesn't come off, then I may be hurting some other people as well as maybe making myself look a little bit silly at the same time. And it's a lesson that I say to myself every year. It's not a new lesson, it's back your gut, but I'm finding it more difficult to do it these days. My gut last week said, and this is also part of it, said I've sort of checked out of Supercoach this year with the care factor. And not that I don't care for the game, I love the game, but the care factor for the rank, I've given myself a bit of mulligan, tried to be kind to myself this year, just a bit of a different beast. But it's that pressure and that responsibility. And going back to last week, I was full sending it. I thought, look, season's done, let's just have a bit of fun. Brodie Grundy must come into my side. I need to find a way to do it. And there were two ways that I was able to do it. More than two ways, but the major two ways I was thinking was, do we go your Zorko down to James Sicily, and then that'll give me enough money to go Sherry up to Grundy? Or else do I go Baz and just trust this bit of gut feel that I've got and get Sammy Flanders in? You can go back to last week's review. If you're watching this one, you probably watched last week's. I don't know what I ended with. I think it was the Baz out and Flanders in. But what did I do at the end of the day? Instead of using the two trades, one left in the bank for an injury, a long-term injury to one of my Ubers, I decided to play it safe. After saying that I'm playing it aggressive, I'm sending it, don't care about the rank, want to have some fun, get Brodie Grundy in, get the big fella in, just VC him, captain him every day of the week or every weekend. I didn't do that. I went, you know what? I'm going to get Rowan Marshall in. He's got a decent run. I expect a little bit more. Tough week this week, but then it should be nice and cherry ripe after that. Hopefully, fingers crossed. There are always red flags and question marks to most of the rucks that you're getting in, apart from Grundy. But I'm spewing on myself. And what would have happened, and we're only looking this in isolation for the week, you look at your Baz and your Flanders, I'm actually making, 30-odd points on that. You're pretty par with the other trade I was making with Zorko out and Sicily in. Now, again, you'd much rather your Baz over your Flanders and your Zorko over your Sis. But how much would you rather Brodie Grundy over your Rowan Marshall? And I was full sending it. I said that I was full sending it and decided not to do it. So that's one thing I'm really spewing on myself this week. And this is, by the way, not me being negative whatsoever. As I said, it's just reflecting and sharing, I suppose, my experience over the year. And I suppose more than over the year, isn't it? We're going right back to the start. But I'm not complaining about all the changes to the game. This is my reflection on myself and the position that I find myself in and the difficulty that I'm having transitioning to the different style. I'm keeping on flipping back and forth. Old school, classical, traditional to the new school. Let's go aggressive. Make a couple of moves here. So that's, one thing that I think that I need to commit to. Do you stay really conservative or do you just try to go really aggressive for 1 year? And, even back in the gut to the pre-season, it's that group think and group talk. And I hate to admit it, and I never thought that I used to do it. But reflecting this year, I thought, you know what? Where's my lock, Jordan Clark, in my starting team? He's still nowhere to be found. Where is Baz? Well, he's there now, but he was in the large majority of my preseason starting teams. Levi Ashcroft was in 100% of them. And then, unfortunately, I didn't hear the news that he wasn't going to be sub. But again, my gut said, you know what? Even if he's a sub this week, he's going to win the rising star, this man. Get him in. It's going to be a long-term prospect. No, I didn't. There are so many decisions, late-minute decisions that I made. The Chalky Neal move in after the hurricane, the cyclone, whatever it was. That was an absolute disaster. But I'm not blaming anyone else. I'm blaming myself here. I'm blaming myself for going to that group thing. Jaden Short was on my never again list. Harry Perryman came from the Stars, and I ended up being pretty big on him for a number of different reasons. But there were the fake picks that I brought in. Finn Callaghan. I thought, you know what, this is a gut feel pick that I'm actually going to go with. But then after a couple of poor performances, he got tagged. I got out of the pick and I traded him. And then look at his season. If I'd have held on to him, trade saved, maybe 2 trades saved, you're getting yourself wonderful play. He got injured, but, back you get DR. This one, I'm talking like Shorty now, using myself in this the third person. Back yourself, DR. These are the things that I'm disappointed in myself for doing, and I almost feel guilty for those people that tended to more follow what I did in a way and not select some of these players that I was so hot on in the preseason. So, yeah, that's just a little bit of reflection, I suppose. And again, it's not to start off a negative way. It's more just to tell you how I feel and maybe generate a bit of discussion between maybe some of the old school super coaches. Let me know what you think in the comments, guys. How have you transitioned? How have you found it? Would you rather go back to your 24 trades? Do you like your 40? Where's that balance? For me, I think it's maybe early 30s, I think at this stage to me. Maybe 32. I think is a decent balance. Maybe you'd have to go up to 35 to compromise. I reckon 3 boosts. Maybe we go down to instead of your 5. Other people may say, look, 5 gives you more strategy. It does. It also gives you the opportunity to fix mistakes that maybe you shouldn't be able to fix. And those blokes and ladies, wonderful ladies, that really nailed their starting team, should they be more rewarded? Maybe I think they should. And hey, I didn't nail the starting team, and it could have been maybe worse off for me. I don't know. So I'm not even saying this in a selfish way. I just think that we really need to try to find a way to reward those people that nailed it early on, and maybe their reward now are those extra trades in the bank. While some people have none, 1, 2, 3 if you're lucky, these people could have the extras, and maybe that's your bonus there. I'm not too sure, but yeah, it's a bit of a discussion just to start off the video, because there's not a whole lot to talk about when it comes to my side. We're basically going to talk about a few of the players, and then really it's about your vice captain and your captain these days. I'm not the expert. It's our brothers Rossco and Janath, the third man up, and my brother Pig as well over on Dr. Supercoach. They're the guys that you need to check out for your captain's advice, but I'll go through some of my options anyway. So let's get into this, guys. Let's see how the team is actually looking. Then lock in the VC and the C for now. Alrighty, here we are. So, where do we start? Well, we'll start with the defenders. And this man here, my goodness, I hope that he stays with the Saints. I really do, because if you're a Saints supporter, you bring in TDK for 1.7, 1.8, whatever it is, and lose this guy, I don't know what to do. And keep in mind, I'm a Fitzroy supporter, so I know what it's like to have my club absolutely have its heart ripped open. So I feel for Saints supporters. Been having a bit of banter on Twitter with some lately with all the NGA academies, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, this man here, he has to stay in the black, red, and white, because he's a superstar of the competition. Full time in the midfield and almost 150 points. This guy just does everything. I really didn't think he'd have the body to do it yet. Maybe in future years, but he's an absolute star, as I said, and such a fun own. And I remember taking this guy over Zach Butters. Butters has been a terrible anti-pod, but comparing the two, I've done much better here, I think. So, yeah, shout out to the Wang. Zorks almost hit the ton. Now, this guy was just battered from pillar to post this week. It was like a head, the ankle. He will get up for this week, I've been told, though, from a pretty good source at this stage. So I'm going into this week assuming pretty confidently that he'll be playing anyway. So all good with that, almost hit the ton. This was an absolute disaster, and I got some things right with the game day squad this week, some things wrong with the GDS as well. But this is one thing that I did get right. I said avoid Colby McKercher because I'm worried he's going to cop the tag, and that is absolutely what happened. So Jordan spent a fair bit of time on him and just could not get near it. Got a little bit of the ball, but that 58, that was a score that actually dropped out of my 23 this week. So pretty poor, but if he doesn't get the tag, he's got such a juicy role. He just needs to use the ball well. That's all I'll say. Lockie Whitfield with a 104. Oh, look, we were expecting a little bit more, were we? Maybe. But look, at the end of the day, if any of my players are going 100 plus, I'm just going to take it. I'm not going to get too greedy. Now, going back to gut feel. This was actually, for the first time in a little while, I actually used my gut because I put a thing out on Twitter. Do I run with Mills or McCarthy on field? Reason being because I actually decided to, and this was a very late minute decision, to put the emergency on Bailey Dale. Reason being because the conditions were just horrendous up in Brisbane. I thought, well, how about if he doesn't get a heap of the football and due to the conditions, he doesn't use it overly well, because this man is all about efficiency because they're all uncontested possessions, basically getting the free chips. But he got his 109, which I was rapt about. But that now meant that I had to decide between, which I knew doing anyway, between your Mills and your McCarthy. So I put a poll out on Twitter, and I think it was about 60-40. I'll have to go and check McCarthy's way. And I thought, look, I'll go with the Tommy McCarthy. But then I looked into things and I thought, you know what? Coming up against North, Sydney cannot afford to lose a game. Callum Mills is their leader, he's their captain, and he's got to get them, or help to get them over the line. It was Grundy and Heaney by a fair stretch, wasn't it, that helped to do that at the end of the day. But super impressed with his game. Hit up my man Kai Broom as well. Shout out to you, mate. And just said, look, what do you think about his role this week? And he was pretty confident it would be a nice sort of role, playing behind. He was sort of playing that one kick almost behind, looking at that loose sort of man, almost behind the stoppages at times. Really, really fantastic role. So wrapped with his 115 after being disappointed 2 out of the last 3 weeks before that. Gray came on obviously for that. And McCarthy was 71. He's still fine to have on field, I think, in your flex, wherever he is. We can't be too picky at the moment. And look, if you're disappointed with the 71, remember this is a mid-season pick that we got for 99k with DPP. So really good there. Sinclair was the flex, by the way. Really good to see this man hit form again. He was too good not to be doing well. And the great thing now about owning Sinclair is obviously with Naz, well, is it going to be full-time? After last week, you'd assume they'd continue with it for now. The good thing with Naz going into the midfield is this guy gets all of the chips now down back. So, yeah, wrapped to have Jack Sinclair in hitting some form now. The big Bond, I decided to chuck the VC on. After watching him live the week before, I thought I'm keeping the faith with him. And he's a big game player. Bang, 126, and I decided to keep that safe. The backup was going to be Jordan Dawson for me this week, so only an 88. So, lucky I took it, the safe one there. It was going to be bloody Brodie Grundy, and to be honest, I would have rolled with, well, again, this is your traditional Supercoach brain. The traditional brain says 125 plus, lock it in, be safe, which is probably what I would have done. But having Brodie Grundy there, I probably, if I was willing to full send it, getting him in, I would have full sent it, probably having the captain on him as well, which is so many points lost. But who knows if I'll be able to use that extra trade I saved to my advantage. We'll have to see there. I did not see this coming. I thought that Nick Dacos would be in for maybe an 85, if he's lucky, but he doubled that. Absolutely doubled that, and I didn't see this role coming off halfback as well. Career high disposals, just absolutely brilliant. Apologies to anyone that took my advice on Game Day Squad and avoided him. I do sincerely apologise for that. No, I didn't even play my gold Nick Dacos and contender this week, which if I had of, may have been very close to that top 20. Dawson disappointing, but I still like his matchups. Dunks is coming back to form, and he should play on Rao this week. I don't know how many tackles this man's going to get, but contested possession City, yeah, we'll see how he scores. But traditionally, he goes well against Gold Coast. Brayshaw's sort of in no man's land at the moment, but has a really nice matchup this week. Hoping he can find that ceiling. This is super disappointing. George Hewitt. So I've had 2 really nice scores. And when I say really nice, when I bought him in, I got a 120. And remember, it was for Chocky, and I would have been unders for for 18. I think I may have just got to 18 or maybe 19 if I was lucky that week. So that meant a lot to me that week. Then I got the 130, but then it's his 73, the 80 odd. Super disappointing. Not what I wanted from my pod. And he's a pod as well. You know, if he goes well, my week's a lot better. Same as McKercher as well. That really hurt me this week, unfortunately. She's 106, really nice. I expect more from Chera. I was speaking to Janath during the week, and he came into the conversation with this whole McCarthy and Mills loop as well. But we both agreed we see a bit of a comeback game here, and it wasn't that. But it is what it is with 91. Good to see Boxall, so at least I've got another bench option here, and he didn't get subbed, which was even better. So if you're really, really desperate, I may have that option up my sleeve now. Gorn 128, really nice. Half time, bloody 20 odd, but what a second half it was from the great man. Boyd came on as the captain, and Romo with the 90, just, did a couple of nice things, didn't he? But I expect him to do a lot better around the ground. It just didn't happen for him. It wasn't a dog of a game from Rowan, but seeing Brody go around it really does hurt. Baz, he's come back to earth, isn't he, with an 81. Was it the move to Flanders, that pod move that, could have got me Grundy as well? Probably wouldn't have the Canoes to do that. It was more realistically, I think, if I'm being honest with myself, the Zorko to Sicily move. But Flanders, I had that feeling, that gut feeling. But what can you do? There's no real data to back that up. Ranklin 97, all good. He's coming, I'd say, back to form. He's had a really nice last 3 weeks. Shadley Warner, come on down with a ton, son. We have been waiting for this for, it seems like forever. It's not a big ton, but it is a ton. So, the only ton. Let's be honest, in my forward line this week. Caleb for a 95, that was all good, but you want a little bit more, particularly when McKercher's getting tagged. You want 100, if that's the case. Man, I got Shea. I own Shea. Could have won the game, and he did win the game with his point, but it could have been a goal, mate, and who knows what that 58 could have been with Champion Data's secret herbs and spices. The human size scraper, he's come back down to earth, hasn't he? Again with an 86, but tough matchup with Big Harris there. And the Ped came back with a 47, so at least I've got your Ped, your McCarthy, and your Box at the moment to come on for me. So that's really nice. Chuck Darcy there for now. So that is the team, guys. So it's pretty much a matter of what we're going to do with loops this week. I'm just going to bring Dale back on field for now, so just get my best, what I feel is the best team back there anyway. I always like to have Sinclair or someone with a later game at the flex, just to allow me to move some things around late if needed, and always with DPP. And I can do that absolutely there as well this week. So we've got McCarthy. He's playing later game, so we can loop Mills. There's no way I'm going to worry about looping Dale against Essendon. So I'm going to loop Mills, I think, here in the back line. Or is it that McKercher? Would they be bold enough to tag McKercher? Mills I just see cracking in really, really hard, but it's a bit of a tougher matchup. Maybe I'll go that. Can I Sunday at 4:15? Oh, sorry, Saturday 4:15. Yeah, so I will be able to do that because I've got Gray there. So I might actually loop McKercher and McCarthy. Yeah, I can do that. So, yeah, I'll leave it like that for now. And if need be, I'll just do that. Yep, cool. Box, I'm not going to loop with this midfield here. I just don't really think it's worth it. And Ped, do you know what? Ped and Bolton, what are we looking at there? So Bolton here against West Coast. And the Ped, yes, I'm going to do that actually. Oh, but I can't because I've got Simpson there as the loop, so I can't do that. But all good. Alright, so we do that. Alright, so captains, vice captains. Hawthorn, oh, man. Alright, so your pod one is your Dale, but I'm just going to leave it on the Bond. I think he hasn't let me down the last couple of weeks, and he's playing Essendon, who, no offence, Essendon fans, I've got so many great and close mates that are mad Essendon people, going mad at the moment. I legit feel sorry for them. So, but yeah, they're going to dominate Essendon. You'd think LeBont should dominate as well, knowing how well the Dogs have to play, and percentage will come into it as well for them. It has to. They'll have to, really look to dominate Essendon. So I'm going with the Bont there. I think it'll be hard to pass up. Matchup is no good for me. I wouldn't go with the Dunks, I don't think, or Zorko. Look, you could go with Andy B as maybe a safe type captain option. Hope he comes good. North, normally it's Sherry, isn't it? So it would be Sherry in this matchup. Dawson in the old, what is it, the Derby? Is it the Derby? Or is that the other one? Showdown. Showdown is tempting. Oh, Nick. It's got to be Nick, doesn't it? Captain there. And then Rowe versus Gorn. You could almost go Gorn. Who's Baz got? Baz versus North. He just hasn't really been feeling it, but maybe he comes back to form. There's a few good options this week, isn't there? It was tough last week because obviously these guys were playing each other, but I think that's how I'm going to roll for now. After what we've seen from these guys lately, I think it's going to be hard to pass that up. So, that is it for me for now, guys. Obviously, I have the potty coming out as well tomorrow night on the Tuesday. The boys will be out with the lives. What else? I'll do Game Day Squad. Have some Game Day Squad content as well. Mailbag, if there's enough questions. If there's any questions, I'll tell you what, instead of the mailbag this week, I might put a mailbag tweet up, but put any questions down here in the comments. And rather than responding to them, which I may do anyway, if I've got the time, I'll do a video. So either respond through the comments or I'll do some sort of mailbag video with the comments down here. So that's it for now, guys. Much love. Hope you have an awesome week. Even if Supercoach team is down in the dumps, try to enjoy things and maybe even start planning for next year. Maybe reflect on what's gone well, what hasn't gone well this year, and maybe start to put a bit of a plan in for your 2026 team. So that's it for me. Much love, guys. All the best. See you in the next one. Cheers, bye.